outside the presence of the jury with all counsel and Mr. Liggins present, I understand, Mr. Walton, we need to make a record.
Yes.
Or Ms. Walton.
It's okay. Your Honor, we anticipate that we will be presenting the testimony of Wanda Hughes. Everyone, I think, is aware that during the first two trials, of course, Exhibit 86 was portions of the car, the actual car in the courtroom, and during her testimony, she did reference the car and identify the car in front of the jury in the courtroom and its lights. So obviously we don't have the car in the courtroom at this time, so in an effort to replicate that viewing for the witness, we have created videos of the car, and we would like to present as 86B, as in boy, a video during Wanda Hughes' testimony. We did there are actually numerous videos taken in an effort to replicate courtroom testimony with regard to the car, but we would only, what we're presenting is just one short 1 minute and 1 second video. I'm going to propose first to show it to Ms. Hughes as she is on the stand on my laptop. I think before we went on the record, those in the courtroom are able to see that she is these days having vision problems, so cannot see the big screen as well. So she will authenticate or will testify as to Exhibit 86B being what she viewed. And then we will ask to show it to the jury, so we will offer 86B.
Any objection to that?
I just forgot, the only question I have is when was B created? Because it wasn't filmed at the time that it was filmed, I'm assuming, in preparation for this trial.
Yeah, within the last month, 6 weeks.
Judge, the only concern I have is maybe before the jury, is she going to be your first witness? Okay. Before we have the jury hear about that video, if she can say that what she saw on Ms. Walton's screen and what she saw is what she remembers seeing in the courtroom at that time, then I get it, okay? But that's the only thing I think I would like to clean up before it comes in. Then other than that, I wouldn't have an objection.
Seems to me that would be part of the foundation you would want to lay with her.
Sure. I mean, it's awkward when we're talking about previous trials, so it's, and I'm still wrapping my brain around being able to reveal to the jury that yes, I mean, I entertained the thought of asking her whether that was what she saw in the courtroom, but of course, what really matters is that's what she saw on September 17th. So, but I would ask her both questions, if it replicates what she saw in the courtroom in the previous two trials, and testify to, but obviously what matters is September 17th.
Well, and I think you need to also ask the question, was that what she viewed or saw the night of the 17th?
Right.
And once those questions are answered, assuming they're answered yes, then I think the foundation objection is taken care of.
Agreed. I didn't want to just say, yeah, it's coming in. I just, as long as those questions are actually affirmative, I don't have to disagree.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else we need to talk about?
Then I'm going to do that in front of the jury.
That's fine. Yeah, no, right.
Well, I think the jury needs to know that.
Yes.
Anything else we need to talk about before we bring the jury in?
Not much. No, Your Honor.
All right, let's have a state will call its next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, the state is proposed to read the transcript of of Mark Titus from 1993 that was read in the record by Darius Robinson, excuse me.
That is exhibit 511.
Yes, Your Honor.
511 is in.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mark Titus, called as a witness by the state, being first duly sworn by the court, was examined and testified as follows. Will you state your name for the record, please?
Mark Titus,
And where do you reside, Mr. Titus?
1430 7th Avenue, Rock Island.
How long have you lived there?
2 years
Where did you reside in September of 1990?
at 1430 7th Avenue.
The same residence?
Yes, sir.
And who do you live there with?
My mother.
Did you live there with your mother in September of 1990?
Yes.
And is that your house?
No.
Who owns the house?
Used to be Mitchie Hoffman. I don't know her married name now.
Are you married, sir?
No, sir.
And what's your occupation?
Heating service technician, heating and air conditioning.
Were you employed in that capacity in September of 1990?
No, sir.
Do you know Sherry Glenn?
Yes.
Do you know Joe Glenn?
Yes.
And how do you know them?
My mother used to date their grandfather.
How would you characterize your association with Joe and Sherry Glenn? Friends, acquaintances, or other type of characterization?
I would say they're my friends. They're more of an acquaintance as far as social.
Since the death of Jennifer Lewis, have you had any contact with the Glens?
No, just I seen them at Kmart one time. It was, hi, hello, how are you doing?
You don't socialize with them now.
No, sir, I don't.
Did you know Jennifer Lewis?
Yes, sir.
Had Jennifer ever been to your home at 1437th Avenue, Rock Island?
Yes, the day before everything happened.
Would that have been September 16, 1990?
I would say yes, if that's the day before it all took place.
Why was Jennifer at your residence before?
She was there to pick up a blanket. She had been to do the laundry with a girl who lived at my mom's house, which is named Mary. She had taken her to the laundromat, and evidently the blanket was still in the car, and Mary left for Michigan.
So Jennifer wasn't able to retrieve the blanket?
No, sir.
Do you know what time she was at your residence on the 16th of September?
It was probably early evening.
And did she stay very long?
No, I told her she should get home.
Why was it that she should get home?
Because it was getting dark, and she should be getting home.
Do you know how far, in terms of city blocks, your residence was from the Glen residence?
Roughly 4.5 blocks, 3.5, 4.5, somewhere in that area.
What were you doing on September 17th, Mr. Titus?
I was painting my mother's kitchen.
And were you pursuing that work all during the day on the 17th?
Yes, sir.
Did you at some point on the 17th receive a phone call from Sherry Glenn?
Yes, sir, I did.
And you recall approximately what time you got that phone call?
Probably around 7 o'clock, I would say, the best that I can remember.
Was it light or was it dark out?
It was starting to get dark.
Did Mrs. Glenn inquire about Jennifer?
Yes, sir, she did. She asked if she was there, if she had been there, and I said no, I hadn't seen her.
Now, later in the evening on September 17th, did you have an occasion to see Joseph Glenn?
Yes, sir.
And you recall about what time that was?
Probably around 9 o'clock. It was dark, I know that.
Did Mr. Glenn drive to your house?
No, he rode a bicycle to my house.
Did Mr. Glenn want you to do something for him?
Yes, sir, he did. He asked me if I would take him to look for Jennifer at Quick Mart and things like that. One on 11th Street and one above 14th Street in Rock Island.
And did you agree to do that?
Yes, sir, because he said he didn't have a vehicle to drive and the bicycle was the only means of transportation at that time.
What kind of vehicle did you have?
I had a 78 Chevy van.
Did you and Mr. Glenn go and look for Jennifer then?
Yes, sir, we did. We threw the bike in the back of the van and went. First off, we went to the 24th Street to the Quick Mart, and he went in and asked the cashier if he...
Objection is sustained.
How many stops did you make at various stores?
2 or 3. I think it was 2. The one on 11th Street and the one on 24th Street.
Did you drive around the area looking for Jennifer?
Yes. We went to the Arsenal courts and a few other places where she was known to be playing with friends.
Who was in the van?
Joe and I.
And how long do you estimate you drove around looking for Jennifer?
Probably a good 45 minutes or so.
When you were done looking for Jennifer, where did you go?
We went back to his house.
And did you leave him there?
Yes, sir. He was advised by the officers.
I object, it's hearsay.
The objection is sustained.
Did you part company with Mr. Glenn at that time?
Yes, sir.
And did you have any further contact with the Glens on the night of the 17th, September 1990?
Yeah.
And what was that?
I went back down there. We took some potato soup and stuff down there so they would have something to eat.
And was there any further contact after that?
No, sir.
No further questions.
You may cross-examine, Mr. Bumby.
You said you went down to Arsenal Courts that night looking for Jennifer.
Yes, sir. We drove down through there.
Is that because she had friends down there?
No, sir. That isn't what I said.
Why did you go to Arsenal Courts?
I don't know. That's where he wanted to go. I just took him where he wanted to go.
And isn't it a fact that it was 8 o'clock when Jennifer was down to your house the night before to get the blanket?
I don't think so.
Are you unclear or unsure exactly what time it was?
I'm not positive what time it was, but I know if it was 8 o'clock, it would have been dark.
And do you recall your deposition being taken in the county attorney's office on September 3rd, 1992?
Yes, sir, I do.
And at that time, were you asked the question as to the time it was that Jennifer was down on September 16th to get her blanket?
I'm not positive that question was asked. No.
May I approach the witness, Judge?
Yes.
I'm going to show you a portion of your deposition starting at page 6. If you'll read to yourself line 13 through 22, please.
Okay.
All right. Was the answer accurate that you gave in September of 92 in response to the question, what time was it when Jennifer came down for her blanket?
That's what's down here. I guess it was true.
And the time that you gave, what was that time?
It says 8 o'clock, around 8 o'clock.
You also indicate that it was dark out.
No, sir, I didn't.
Was Jennifer on foot?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall if anyone was with her or not?
No, I didn't see anybody with her.
Now, was anybody else at home with you when she came?
I think my brother might have been at the house or something.
And on the 17th, you say you got a call from Sherry Glenn.
Yes, sir.
And would it have been about 6 o'clock that you got the call?
I don't think so. I don't know for sure.
Was there a reason why Mr. Davis asked you the time you knew and you don't know?
I didn't do the examination.
I'm sorry, Mr. Grubusich.
Please repeat the question.
Do you recall your deposition being taken? Do you recall September 3rd of 1992 at the county attorney's office?
Yes, sir.
Were you asked questions concerning the time that Sherry Glenn called?
Yes, sir.
And at that time, did you answer what time Sherry Glenn called?
Roughly around 6 o'clock is what the answer says.
Did you also not tie that to a specific time because you looked at the clock on the wall?
There was a clock on the wall in the kitchen.
And that's how you were able to determine the time because you looked at the wall clock in the kitchen that you were painting and it was 6 o'clock when you got the call from Sherry.
I don't believe so.
Was there a reason that you said in the deposition you said it was 6 o'clock because I looked at the clock on the wall?
I'm not really sure. Okay, it's been like 2 years.
So your testimony here today, you're not really sure about the matters in terms of the times that Jennifer was down at your house, the times the calls came in. Is that your testimony? You don't know?
I'm not absolutely sure of the time.
I have nothing further.
Mr. Walton, do you have any remarks?
Mr. Titus, as Mr. Scoville was referring to your deposition on September 3rd, 1992, you recall that deposition?
Yes, sir.
That deposition was taken in the office of the Scott County Attorney, was it not?
Yes, sir.
Was I present at that deposition?
Yes, sir, you were.
Anyone else present?
I'm not sure who all was there except for Mr. Liggins.
I'm going to ask you to read a response from that deposition. The question, I believe, was by Mr. McHenrick.
Do you have a page?
Page 6, starting at line 3. Question for Mr. McHenrick that would have been on September 16th. And would you read through that question beginning at line 4 and going down through line 12?
Yes, and I had been painting my mom's kitchen, and she asked about the blanket, and the blanket wasn't there because the girl that lives at my mom's house drove to Michigan and had the blanket in the back of her car. She's the one that took Sherry to the laundromat. Okay, and the blanket was still in the back of the car, and she had already taken off for Michigan.
What's the next line?
I told her, you better get home because it's getting dark.
With regard to the same deposition, Mr. Titus, on page 8, starting at line 14, in response to a question from Mr. McHenrick, is there any reason why you think it was around 6? Can you read your response to that, please, which is lines 16 and 17?
I think because I looked up at the clock in the kitchen.
Now, is your testimony today that when you received the call or when Jennifer, strike that and start over, we'll talk about one event at a time. Is it your testimony today, then, that you would have received a call from Sherry Glenn on September 17, 1990, as it was getting dark outside?
Yes, sir.
No further questions.
Mr. Hallbaker, do you have any recross?
May I approach the witness? Mr. Grubisic had you read the part of the deposition on page 6, lines 3 through 12, and I'll ask you to read the remainder. The next question and answer that you gave that is contained on page 6, lines 13 through 16, please.
13 through 16?
Yes.
Do you recall what time that might have been? Probably around 8 o'clock, I would say.
All right. And Mr. Grubisic had you read a portion of the transcript from page 8. Would you turn to page 8, please? Would you read the entirety of the questions and answers that appear on lines 8 through 17 of page 8?
Line 8, question
8 through 17.
8 through 17.
Yes, sir.
What was the first contact you had from the Glens on the 17th? Answer. Sherry had called me and asked me if I had seen Jennifer. Question. Do you know what time she called? Roughly around 6 o'clock. Question. Is there any reason why you think this was around 6 o'clock? Answer. I think because I looked up at the clock in the kitchen.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. You may step down. Call your next witness.
Today we call Melaine Whitchelo.
Please raise your hand. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Go ahead, when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Please state your full name.
It's Melaine Whitchelo.
Speak up a little bit.
And I'm going to have you spell your full name.
It's MELAINEMOHARWHITCHELO.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a firefighter with the city of Davenport.
How long have you been a firefighter with the city of Davenport?
24 years.
What was your occupation prior to becoming a firefighter?
I worked for the city of Davenport Police Department.
And what did you do for the Davenport Police Department?
I was a police officer working on patrol.
How many years were you a police officer before becoming a firefighter?
I was a police officer for 10 years.
What types of training and education did you have to become a police officer?
I went to the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy in Johnston, Iowa, for my basic training, and then we had periodic training throughout my career.
What types of positions did you hold with the Davenport Police Department?
I was on patrol. I also was a field training officer, and then I was assigned to the Metropolitan Enforcement Group, which was a narcotics division.
What is the Metropolitan Enforcement Group?
It's an undercover narcotics unit that is run by the Illinois State Patrol, State Police, and there are MEG units all throughout the state of Illinois.
And why was the city of Davenport involved in something run by the Illinois State Police?
It benefited the Quad Cities where we were from. The Quad Cities is part of Illinois and Iowa, and we were able to work under the guise of the Iowa State Patrol to enforce narcotics enforcement in the Quad City area.
And is that because of the ease of movement between the Quad Cities, Illinois, and Iowa? It's all kind of one thing?
It is. You can get over to Illinois in a matter of a minute.
And to also kind of facilitate to jurisdictions, law enforcement.
That's correct.
And how long were you with MEG?
I was with the Meg unit on 2 separate occasions. I was there from 1985 until 1988, and then I went back to patrol, and then I was back in the Meg unit from 1991 to 1993.
You've already testified that Meg was under the direction of the Illinois State Police. So how did it work with a Davenport police officer being in Meg? Who do you report to? Whose documents do you use? That sort of thing.
The Med director in our area was the commander of the Illinois State Patrol in that jurisdiction of Illinois. He was out of the Titus Melaine headquarters, and all of our reporting and paperwork and jurisdictional stuff went through them. We filed all of our paperwork with the state of Illinois.
So it would be correct to say that your record keeping was handled by Meg and the state of Illinois.
That's correct.
And that's who you reported to?
Yes.
You've testified that Meg was a narcotics unit.
Yes.
What is the purpose of the narcotics unit?
We were covert agents. That means that we just worked specifically narcotics. We worked undercover. People didn't realize that we were police officers until it was a little too late for them. But that was our only goal, was narcotics enforcement.
As narcotics enforcers in that field, do you make use of confidential informants?
Yes.
What is a confidential source or informant?
It is somebody that has information regarding narcotics dealers or those people trafficking in narcotics, and they have more information than the police officers do, and we would utilize their information to help build criminal cases against the drug dealers.
Are they an important part of the narcotics enforcement?
Yes, they are.
Very important?
Very important.
And why is that?
Obviously, drug dealers don't want to give information to the police officers, and without information from somebody else within that area, we really wouldn't have the ability to arrest any of those drug dealers.
How are the confidential sources, how is their information maintained with Meg in 1990?
First off, anybody who had information would contact the Meg office or Crime Stoppers or through a referral from somebody else. And then a supervisor would meet with that informant and find out if any of their information was viable and what level the drug dealer was. We didn't necessarily want to target drug users. We were more interested in those people that supplied the drugs. So we would cultivate that information, and then we would corroborate any of their information that they provided to us independently, just to make sure that what they were saying was the truth.
Can you explain that further, the independent corroboration of their information?
Well, there were several things that we could do to verify the informant's information. We would go and run criminal histories on them. We would run independent surveillances on their residents or their persons to see if they fit the typical dealer activities, if we would see people coming in and out of their residence at regular intervals, those types of things.
Once it was determined that this person would be an appropriate confidential source, what was done?
We followed the state of Illinois protocols as far as confidential informants. We kept those pretty secure. We didn't want them to go back into their communities or their neighborhoods and be hurt or injured because of their involvement with the police officers. So we would assign them, we would do the interviews, and then we would assign them a confidential informant name.
Did you have used.
I did.
And what name did you know her by?
Lisa Davis.
Was that the confidential name given?
Yes.
Did she perform as a confidential source?
Yes.
In what time period would have that been?
I believe it was from May of 1992 to September of 1993.
We've heard the term handler used in previous testimonies. Is that an appropriate name?
Some jurisdictions use handler. I was just her contact person. I was a supervisor when I went into MAG the second time. And so it was the supervisor's responsibility to have all the contact with the informants and to assign them to the undercover agents.
So all our contact would have been with you?
So the contact insofar as all the paperwork and all the protocols that are necessary for the administration. And then I would turn my confidential, once I deemed them viable, then I would turn them over to an agent or agents.
And was Wanda Hughes paid for information that she provided?
Yes, she was.
And you know when she ceased being a confidential source for the MAG unit?
I believe it was September of 1993.
And why did it cease?
I went back to the police department, and since she was one of my confidential informants, she had the opportunity of going to somebody else, to one of the other team leaders, and she opted not to continue with me.
During the time you were working with Wanda Hughes, do you know that she had involvement in the Stanley Liggins case?
Absolutely not.
Did she ever bring it up?
Never.
Was she ever paid by MAG for information connected with the Stanley Liggins case?
No, never.
Have you ever, or had you ever discussed with, you know who Don Schaefer is?
Yes.
Have you ever discussed with Don Schaefer the fact that Wanda Hughes was an informant?
Never.
Have you ever discussed with Detective Stanley Murphy that Wanda Hughes was an informant?
No.
Have you ever discussed with the county attorney, William Davis, or anybody in the county attorney's office that Wanda Hughes was a confidential informant?
No.
Have you ever discussed with anyone involved in the Stanley Liggins case that Wanda Hughes was a confidential informant?
No.
Was there any connection between Wanda Hughes as a confidential informant and the Stanley Liggins case in your knowledge?
No.
Thank you. Are there any further questions?
Any cross-examination?
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Andy worked for Davenport, right?
I work for the city of Davenport.
City of Davenport, for a time you were with the MAG unit,
Yes.
and that was sort of a multi-jurisdictional thing.
Yes.
Okay. Was it common practice for Davenport police officers to jump over to Illinois and back and forth without contacting Illinois?
The way the MAG unit worked, there were officers from every jurisdiction in the Quad Cities. So we had undercover agents from Rock Island City, Rock Island County, Moline, East Moline, sometimes Silvis, sometimes Scott County, Iowa, Davenport, Iowa, and Bettendorf, Iowa. And some other smaller jurisdictions we may have sent an agent over for a short time. So we would go back and forth from Illinois to Iowa. That was our jurisdiction.
As part of the MAG unit?
As part of MAG unit.
show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 203. Are you familiar with the policies contained in that?
From 2003, I may not have been, since I wasn't a police officer in 2003.
Well, is it fair that sometimes when you're working with informants that they're trying to sort of work off charges? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so oftentimes you can obtain an informant or say a drug user that maybe gets arrested for possession, or maybe it's just a small possession of intent or something like that. And we'll work with them to see if we can go higher up the food chain in the drug community, fair enough?
Yes.
And they're trying to get a little benefit of the bargain for whatever arrest they might have had, correct?
Yes.
And that happens quite a bit actually in the narcotics world, correct?
I would say.
And do you know if at that time Ms. Hughes had any charges that she was trying to work out?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay. But she did also, another benefit to being a confidential informant is that you get some money to get paid, correct?
Yes.
And it wasn't unusual to pay them, and they knew oftentimes they were employees.
Yes.
Did you, so even though the first, as a handler, did you maintain communication?
Not necessarily. The function in this, the way the protocols for the Illinois state were, that any funds that were given to an informant had to come from a supervisor. But then I would do the initial contact with the informant to make sure that they were viable, and then I would turn them over to an agent to work with them.
So if Ms. Hughes is testifying at this fairly notorious trial down there in February of 1993, you may not have known.
Correct.
And she didn't end at least her employment with May, with you, until September of 1993, correct?
That's when she finished it.
Okay. But did she then move on to work with the Davenport Police Department?
When I was going back to the police department, I asked Wanda if she was interested in continuing with the MEG, and she said that she was not, and so I referred her to the Davenport Street Crimes. Whether or not she worked with them, at that point I was back on patrol, and I had no other knowledge as to what her involvement may or may not have been.
No further questions.
Yes, Your Honor. When working with a confidential informant, it's a pretty dangerous situation, isn't it?
Yes,
It's dangerous for the confidential informant.
yes,
If the confidential informant was compromised, it would be very dangerous for the police officer.
absolutely.
And how important is it that you're able to corroborate that a confidential informant is being truthful with you?
Utmost. If they're being less than truthful, if they provided misinformation, then we wouldn't be able to build an actual case that was based on facts. And we had to verify those facts that they provided to us. Separate from just taking their word for it, we had to verify it ourselves to make sure what they were saying was truthful.
And again, if you can't rely on their truthfulness, not only maybe jeopardizing the case, but you should be jeopardizing lives.
We would, and so if we weren't able to verify that information, we wouldn't even consider the source, we wouldn't even use them as a confidential informant any longer.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
And that verification of truthfulness is just limited to the specific things you're asking them to do, correct?
At that point, it was primarily narcotics. That's what we did. That was my role.
Thank you.
Thank you.
witness?
Your Honor, I need a sidebar to clarify before next witness. Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Wanda Hughes. Come forward and be sworn, please.
Ms. Hughes, would you just come right up here, please? Before you have a seat, if you just raise your right hand and be sworn in, you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. All right, have a seat right here. Push up a little bit, and then make sure you probably. You may have to pull it up. Go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Tell us your name, please.
Wanda Hughes.
I'm going to ask you to slide the microphone.
Let's try one more time with your name.
Wanda Hughes.
Will you spell your first name for us?
Yeah, W-A-N-D-A. Last name Hughes, H-U-G-H-E-S.
What city do you live in, Wanda?
Davenport now.
How long have you lived in Davenport?
I've been living there 44 years.
Go find your notes. Do you have children, Wanda?
Yes, I do.
How many children do you have?
8.
Are they all grown?
Yes, they are.
Do you have grandchildren?
Yes, I do.
Now, I think you told us that you lived in Davenport about 44 years, am I right?
Yes.
I'm going to direct your attention to events occurring in 1990. Obviously, you lived in Davenport in 1990, am I right?
Yes.
Where in Davenport did you live in 1990?
I lived there on Vine, 13th and Vine.
13th and Vine in Davenport. Who did you live there with?
My father and my mother.
Is 13th and Vine, is that near Jefferson School?
Yes, it is.
Have you always lived in that neighborhood near Jefferson School?
Raised in that neighborhood.
Okay, so you're very familiar with the area around Jefferson School in Davenport?
Yes.
Now, Wanda, Ms. Hughes, I'm sorry, Ms. Hughes, you've testified with regard to Stanley Liggins before, haven't you?
Yes.
You've testified in a couple of trials, right?
Yes.
One in 93 and one in 95.
Yes, I believe you're right.
And you testified as to events occurring on September 17th, 1990. Is that right? The day the little girl was found burned in Jefferson School?
Yes. Yes.
Looking back on September 17th of 1990, how was your eyesight then?
It was 20/20 then.
Perfect eyesight? Yes?
Yes, yes.
And then how about in 1993? How was your eyesight then?
It was good then. It was 2020.
How was your eyesight in 1995?
It was 2020.
And now, I don't want to pry too much, but can you tell us about your eyesight today?
It done got diabetes and got the best of me.
Diabetes got the best of you, is that right?
Yes,
And that's affected your eyesight?
yes.
So you don't, your eyesight is obviously not as good now as it was in 95, 93, and 90.
Right.
What I want to do is ask you about a place called the Brick House. Is that a place that was in Davenport?
Yes, it was.
What sort of place was the Brick House?
It was a club.
A club? What sort of things went on at the Brick House?
Drinking, dancing.
Having fun?
Yeah.
Where was the Brick House located?
It was on Ripley.
Ripley and Davenport?
Yes.
Do you know what cross street it was near?
It was Ripley and I believe, let me see now, 14 lanes. It was 15.
So it was on Ripley and 15.
Yes.
Can you tell us approximately how far away from Jefferson School Ripley and 15th was? That's just an approximation.
Oh, I say anywhere from 12 to 10 blocks maybe?
Okay. Are they both in central Davenport, the middle of Davenport?
Yeah, they both in the West End.
All right. Did you ever see Stanley Liggins at the Brick House?
Yes.
And did you see him more than once at the Brick House?
I have to say yes.
What did you notice about Stanley Liggins when you saw him at the Brick House?
Nice dressed man, smelled good, noticeable, was always young.
And that would have been, did I already ask you, but that would have been in the year of 1990 you thought you saw him at the Brick House?
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, so then did you ever see Stanley Liggins around your neighborhood? Around the, did you say 13th and Vine area?
Yes, I did. Only, I'm not really not as good as it used to be. But I would say a few times, maybe twice, maybe.
Okay, that was another place closer to your home near 13th and Vine?
Yes,
Do you know, did you see him at another club or was it a house?
of the house.
Whose house was it?
Mr. Davis,
Did they have a first name?
Bill.
All right. Now, we've heard about a Bill Davis that was the county attorney. Are we talking about the same guy?
No.
This is a different Bill Davis?
Yeah,
Did he go by Billy Davis?
yeah, it was Billy Davis. We call him Bill.
And his house was located near the area that you were living on 13th and Vine, is that right?
Right.
And you saw Stanley Liggins at Billy Davis's house on a number of occasions?
Yes.
Do you know where Billy Davis's house was?
It was on the corner of Warren and 13.
Okay, so Billy Davis, you think, lived at Warren and 13th. Well, what I want to do is direct your attentions, Ms. Hughes, to events occurring on September 17th of 1990. You remember the evening that the little girl was found burning in Jefferson School? Is that right?
So repeat that to me.
Do you remember the day that the little girl was found burning in Jefferson School?
Yeah.
And you talked to police about it, is that right?
Yeah,
And you've testified about it a number of times?
right.
Okay. Now, on that date, on September 17th of 1990, did you have a date with someone?
Yes, I did.
And what was that person's name?
Oak Forster.
Okay. You said something like Oaks Porcel?
Yeah, the name sounds funny, but that was her name.
Can you describe him for us, please?
Yeah, he was an old white gentleman. I say he was about, back then I was younger, so he was about 60, did I say 63 or 64?
And where did the man live, Oaks?
Oak lived on 13 West 13.
Okay. Was it near Jefferson School?
It's right in the, let's see, Jefferson, it'd be in the front of Jefferson.
All right. We heard that Jefferson was on 12th Street, so he was about a block away from Jefferson.
That's right.
Do you know what cross street was nearby, Mr. Oak?
I can't remember.
Okay, fair enough. When you were at Oak's house, did you see anything remarkable?
Yes.
And will you tell us what you saw?
Oak will always give me cigarettes in the kitchen cabinet over the sink. We were watching a movie, and I had went to the kitchen to get the cigarettes. I seen a blaze of a fire.
Okay, so let me stop you there. You saw a blaze of a fire?
Yeah,
And I think you told us you were in the kitchen.
yes.
Are you looking out a window?
Yeah, there's a window there.
Are you looking toward Jefferson School?
Yeah, it would be in the back of Jefferson, in the front of Jefferson, right at that time. It was right at the part that you can see the front of Jefferson, yeah.
Okay. And you saw a blaze at the school.
Yes.
And what then happened?
Oak was, I had hollered back to Oak that I couldn't find the cigarette. And I was getting me some water, a glass of water. Oak walked in because he had one arm. He walked in, opened the cabinet, and said, look over there. And we did.
What did he say?
He said, look up and get the cigarette. He said, there they are right there.
Okay.
I looked and I seen them too. And Reggie got them. Beat the pack. Y'all, if you don't smoke, you don't know what I'm talking about. But I beat the pack and packed them. Opened them, got me a cigarette out, drank a little water. Happened to see you on fire. Oak was standing there with me. But you were used to it. You were used to the fire because kids always set it on fire over there for some reason. I don't know why. But Oak and I returned back to the front room. I went back to get something to drink. I had left my glass of water sitting there. That's what it was. I went back and got the water, got ready to turn away, but I seen something else.
What else did you see?
I seen the fire and I seen a reflection. Many years ago, of a car.
And when you were looking, where did you see the car?
I seen the car standing, for me to be raised up in the area, I had to sit there and think. I was raised on Nathan. That would have been Warren Street then. Let's see, let me make sure now. No, that would have been Vines come around through there, around that curve.
Is it the road in front of Jefferson that curves
Yeah.
around?
It goes around by the Fleming house.
That's been identified as Vine Street?
No, that's not Vine, that would have been, yeah, that would have been mine, that would have been mine.
Okay, so where did you see the car then?
It was sitting on, 10th?
So you,
10th and Vine.
so you were looking out the window and you saw the car at 10th and Vine?
Yeah, because I've been looking down towards the hill on Vine, I've been looking,
And you were still looking out the window at Horses
yeah,
or Oak, as you call them?
yeah.
And what part of the car did you see?
I cannot say who was driving the car, but I can tell you what the lights look like,
Okay, and what lights? The front lights or the back lights?
the back light.
Okay. And what was remarkable about the lights?
It was, back then I wasn't a driver, so it was the brake light and the red letters around them. One light was brighter than the other.
And did you later see those lights in the courtroom in '93?
Yes, I did.
And were those the lights that you saw on September 17th?
Yes, it was.
And you saw them at 10th and Vine?
Yeah,
And then you saw those lights again in 1995?
yeah,
And that was in the courtroom when you were testifying?
right,
And you saw those lights in the courtroom?
yeah,
And those were the lights, the tail lights that you saw on September 17th of 1990?
right.
Obviously, we don't have a car in the courtroom today, do we?
No,
But what I'm going to do now, Wanda, is show you what we have marked State's Proposed Exhibit 86B. I'm going to show you a video now, and I just want you to look at it, okay, and not say anything, just look at it to yourself.
okay.
Okay, can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. We're just going to watch it for a minute. Okay, it states 86 feet. Are those the same taillights and car that you saw previously in the courtroom? You saw these same taillights in 1993 and 1995? And those are the same taillights that you saw?
Yeah,
And those are the same taillights that you saw on September 17th of 1990?
yes,
And they're distinct, aren't they?
yes they are.
Your Honor, I would like to show State's Exhibit 86B to the jury.
And have it admitted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I offer State's Exhibit B. Thank you. 86B. Sure.
Okay.
All right. Now I have been admitted.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 86B is admitted.
Ms. Hughes, was it dark out when you saw that car at 10th and Vine?
Yeah, you know, it wasn't super dark, but it was dark enough for you to notice things.
Okay, notice the taillights.
Yeah.
Then after seeing that car with the taillights that you just described and shown us, did you later see fire trucks at that fire?
Yeah.
How much time had gone by from the time you saw the car to the time you saw the fire trucks arrive at that fire?
I want to say anywhere between anywhere from 20, maybe 20 to 15 to somewhere around in that area. It wasn't no hour or no 30 minutes or like that. It was within 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay. And then how much time had gone by from the time you first saw the blaze to the time that you saw the vehicle at 10th and Warren? You know how much time had gone by then?
It would have to be anywhere from the time that I seen the fire department to the time I seen this car. It would have to be anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, let me just make sure I'm understanding. Right now what I'm asking is, let's go back to the very first time you're getting those cigarettes and you see the blaze, right? You told us about that, and then you later see this car on 10th and Vine. How much time was there between seeing the blaze in the beginning and seeing the car? Can you tell us that? Do you know?
I can't recall that much.
Okay, all right. So you don't remember?
Not anymore.
Okay. Okay, now, Ms. Hughes, I'm going to ask you about, I'm going to ask you whether or not, did you work as a confidential source for the Metropolitan Enforcement Group, MEG?
Yes, I did.
Did you also work as a confidential source for the Davenport Police Department?
And say that question again because you threw me off. You said MEG.
MEG, remember the Metropolitan Enforcement Group?
Yeah.
Okay, so you worked as a confidential source for them? Is
Yes.
that right?
Yes.
And then did you also work as a confidential source for Davenport?
Yes.
Davenport Police?
Yes. I did.
Do you remember, who did you work with at MEG? Do you recall her name?
Yeah, Elaine.
Elaine?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember who you worked with at the Davenport Police Department?
John Gross, I believe.
Okay. Did you use the name Wanda Hughes when you were a confidential source?
No.
Do you remember what name you used?
Yeah.
What name was that?
Lisa Davis.
Did you ever tell Wanda Hughes or John Gross that you were involved? I know, I just caught that. You're Wanda Hughes. Sorry. Did you ever tell Elaine or John Gross that you were a witness in the Stanley Liggins case?
No.
Did you ever tell either one of them that you were involved at all in the Stanley Liggins case?
No.
Did you ever tell any of the detectives involved in the Stanley Liggins case that you were a confidential source?
No.
Did you ever tell Bill Davis, the county attorney Bill Davis, did you ever tell county attorney Bill Davis that you were a confidential source?
No. It's something you tell. You get your head busted.
Did you receive any money for testifying or providing information in the Stanley Liggins case?
No.
Ms. Hughes, I don't have any further questions for you. These attorneys may.
Your Honor, can we vote real quick?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our afternoon break. It's 2:30. We'll start again at right around 2:45. So please keep the admonition in mind.